Guten Tag, APUSH. We have a new video today. It's the bee's knees by the big cheese himself, Mr. Linegar. Let's make history today as we jaw over Unit 3, Day 7. But first, let's do our daily punishment. What do you use to cut a Roman emperor's hair? Caesar's. Caesar's scissors. Your key terms for today: ecological imperialism, the tariff of 1816, Eli Whitney, Elias Howe, Samuel Slater, Samuel Morse, the cult of domesticity, Lowell Girls, Commonwealth v. Hunt, the transportation revolution, the Erie Canal, the Pony Express, the steel plow, the mechanical reaper, Continental economy, the market revolution, the Know Nothing Party, and old immigrants. We're going to go over the economic changes of the market economy of different regions in the 1800s, like 1800 to 1850. We'll talk about the transportation revolution and its effects. And we'll talk about characteristics of old immigrants and their reaction in America, how people felt about the immigrants coming to this country. So there is the idea of movement westward in American history during this time. We call this now manifest destiny. There's a lot of characteristics of this. Some of them are kind of stereotypes. The idea of rugged individualism. A person just packs up, they take their saw, their shotgun, and maybe one pair of boots, and they just move westwards. They're rugged individualists. They could do this themselves. No matter how bad things are, you can always just move westward. As this is happening, what's happening is some of the land westward is being destroyed. Tobacco farmers are going to exhaust the soil of the land they settle in. So a lot of the tobacco land in Kentucky will be switched to bluegrass. It'll be used for livestock. There'll be trappers will rendezvous in St. Louis, like beaver trappers. There'll be a lot of hunters during this time, and a lot of the hunters are going to be killing animals for their furs. And this is going to lead to almost these animals' extinctions. Beaver, buffalo, sea otters are going to nearly disappear in the West because of ecological imperialism, where you have the white people moving westward and just basically destroying the ecology. And here's a picture of it. Oh no. Oh God, guys. This is not the picture I was talking about. I wanted to see the, no. Where's the happy white woman? Oh no. Oh no. Oh yeah, okay. There we go. Okay, yeah. See, so everybody's happy, except for the Native Americans that are being butchered and having their land stolen from them, and the bulls, the buffalo that are running away. My God, you see the trains being built and everything like this. This is showing manifest destiny. This is actually kind of a positive portrayal of it. This right here is a more realistic portrayal. Oh no, guys. Oh, okay, happiness again. Okay. All right. So America is going to go through the Second Industrial Revolution in the 1800s. The Second Industrial Revolution is going to really happen and coincides with the War of 1812. During the War of 1812, America is going to be... they couldn't buy from British manufacturing, so Americans are going to create their own little factories, Buy American, Wear American. After the War of 1812, we were worried that cheap British goods would force a lot of the American factories to go out of business. So America will create the first protective tariff in American history, the tariff of 1816, which we talked about before. There's going to be a lot of economic inventions during this time that are going to happen and coincide with the Industrial Revolution. We have Eli Whitney, he created the idea of interchangeable parts. So you'd have these different parts that could be used for different things for their inventions. You have a screw that could have multiple purposes. Also, he's going to create the cotton gin. So Eli Whitney is really kind of unique. His interchangeable parts will be used to make muskets, which will help the North win the Civil War. But his cotton gin is also going to help slavery to flourish in the South, which kind of caused the Civil War. Another person is Elias Howe. He's going to invent the sewing machine. Isaac Singer will improve upon it. The Boston Associates were the 15 richest Boston merchant families. They're going to control all the textiles, the insurance, and the banking in Boston. So they're going to be like an elite economic group in Boston. Samuel Morse will invent the telegraph, and the X and the dashes and dots. That's going to allow people to be able to communicate from long distances away. And Samuel Slater is going to create the idea of the factory system. The factory system is what America was doing when they start to industrialize. This is actually, it's kind of subjective, but this is actually more the first industrial revolution than the second. The first industrial revolution is usually the textile revolutions. Sometimes we just include Britain as the only one for the first industrial revolution, and everybody else is the second. But America is really going to have two phases in the industrial revolution. The first part of the industrial revolution for America will be with textile mills. This will be early 1800s. The next part will be the late 1800s, will be with steel plants, the assembly line, and stuff like that. Anyways, going back to Samuel Slater. Samuel Slater created the idea of the factory system. People would all be gathered in one area. They would work in a mill. They would use some form of energy. At first, they would have their textile mills by rivers, and the current of the river would cause the wheels to spin and cause the cotton to turn into cloth, to turn into fabric. Samuel Slater was a British man. He stole the whole design of the factory system from Britain. He was known as Samuel the Trader, and he brought it to America and created the first textile mills in America. This is much different than what we were doing beforehand. Before this time period, America and the rest of the world was going through something called the pudding system, or cottage industries. And that's when people were just working from their home. There was one or two people. With the factory system, you have a group of people working together, and it allows for more mass production. Let's talk about the working conditions in the factories. Factory owners are mostly going to be pretty wealthy. The workers will be poor. There's no minimum wage. There's no workers' compensation if you get injured. There's no kind of protection for children to not be exploited. There's going to be terrible working conditions. Half the workers were children. Working conditions will improve slowly for adult workers. They'll start to have 10-hour workdays. At this time, if you're a worker, one of the only things you could turn to is a union. A union is a group of people that have the same job, and they could work together, they could strike or they could boycott to try to get better working conditions. If you're a factory owner, you don't like unions. Unions will not be legal in America, but in Massachusetts at least, in the state Supreme Court case in Massachusetts, unions will be ruled legal in Massachusetts, but not for America as a whole. That's not going to happen until in a couple units. Let's talk about some of the textile mills in New England. A lot of times the people working in the textile mills were girls. These girls were working 6 days a week, 12 to 13 hours a day. They're going to be paid a lot less than men would make. 10% of women in New England worked outside of home. Most will quit after marriage. Families will start to get smaller because some women will decide not to get married during this time. Although, honestly, they didn't really have enough money to survive on their own. The Lowell girls are an example of textile girls in Lowell, Massachusetts. They're the biggest example of women working in a factory in Massachusetts. A lot of times when you were hired by a boss, they wanted to make sure that you were ugly because they didn't want to hire attractive women because often they would quit and get married and have children. So you had to be ugly, which meant, a lot of us would qualify for it. Yay! Here's a picture of the Lowell girls. I mean, they're kind of pretty. Good for them. So I guess, they, got rid of some of those standards. But I mean, yeah, there's some attractive people there. So that's good for them. Anyways, let's talk about gender roles, because gender roles are going to dramatically change during this time period. If you remember, after the American Revolution, we have Republican motherhood. The goal of the American woman is to be the conscience, the national conscience, and to teach civic virtue. In the 1800s, women are going to actually regress, and women will actually kind of lose rights. This is going to be called the cult of domesticity, And really, you could look at this picture right here, and this really describes what a job of a woman is. It's to cook, it's to take care of the children, it's to clean, and it's to have babies. The cult of domesticity is going to be a value system for women in the early to mid 1800s. It is a step back from Republican motherhood. It's going to stress femininity, family, and submitting to your husband. The major virtues that you're supposed to have is piety, religious piety, purity. You're a pure woman. I don't want to go outside to see somebody with their shirt off. I would just faint. Domesticity, my job is in the household. And submissiveness, I submit to the man. And cook, clean, and have babies. That's how I made it shorter to understand. So this is not good if you're a woman, guys. Bad times. Let's talk about the transportation revolution. In the 1800s, there'll be these new types of transportation. It's going to make transportation quicker in America. It's going to allow trade goods to be spread from one part of the country to another much quicker. That's why it's called a revolution. So here are some of the big new types of transportation. We have the Lancaster Turnpike, which was a toll road. We have a national road from Cumberland, the National Road or the Cumberland Road, which is going to stretch in the west and the south, and it's going to go through multiple states. We have the Erie Canal, which is going to be built to connect the Great Lakes. It makes things much cheaper to transport, from $100 to $5. And much quicker also, from 20 days to 6 days. We have railroads, which are going to be huge inventions. And we have clipper ships. Clipper ships are small, fast ships, which are able to go on the coast of the ocean and transport goods pretty quickly. We also have the Pony Express. The Pony Express is going to be the first version of the United States Postal Service. They went a certain route through all the way from California up until like the Missouri, and people would ride a pony, a horse, and they would deliver the mail. They would do it in phases, like it would go 10-day ride. This didn't cover all parts of America, but it's one of our earliest forms of postal service. Here are some examples of the transportation revolution right here. I think I said steamboats also. Did I say steamboats? Steamboats, did I say you? Oh, no, I didn't. Blasphemy. Okay, guys, this right here is a steamboat, and the steamboats were also another big transportation revolution invention. You have railroads. They're just kind of chilling right here doing agriculture, and that's the factory system. But make sure you add steamboats. All right, let's talk about how the economy changes during this time. There's going to be 3 economic regions in America, and they each produce something different. The West makes up the Western United States makes up a lot of the Ohio River Valley area, like Ohio, Indiana, Wisconsin, Minnesota. This is going to be the breadbasket of America. There's going to be a lot of corn grown there, hogs. They'll make liquor. There'll be some new inventions that will allow for food to be produced quicker, like the steel plow by John Deere. So food will be produced, agricultural products will be grown and destroyed and cut quicker. We have the mechanical reaper, which is a mower. So you're going to have agricultural cash crops dominating the Midwest, and this is mostly to feed America. In the South, they'll do cotton, producing mostly cotton in the South. With the invention of the cotton gin, the South will switch from tobacco to cotton by the late 1700s, early 1800s. The South has switched from tobacco to cotton. So the South is just really doing one crop, cotton, and the North will be doing manufacturing. That's the continental economy. South cotton, West corn and livestock, North in New England, mostly New England, is manufacturing. The market revolution will increase the wealth for the country, but it'll also increase the gap from the rich and the poor. Think about the factory owner versus the factory worker. Lastly, let's talk about immigrants coming to America. From the 1820s to 1890s, we're going to have a group of immigrants coming to America. They are called the Old Immigrants, and you should know that name. They're mostly from Northern Europe and Central Europe. Mostly when we're talking about them, we're talking about the Irish and the Germans. The Irish are coming to America to escape like British persecution and because of the potato famine, where a lot of them were starving because there was a famine in Ireland caused by the potatoes dying. A lot of the Irish people will move into the cities and they'll become factory workers. The Germans are moving to America because of political persecution. A lot of Germans supported revolutions in 1820 and 1848, so they're kind of, like forced to leave their country. They came with more money, so the Germans were going to mostly be settling in the West, and they'll be farmers. They're going to bring different things with them. Germans are hardy people like me. The Germans create a pretty OP version of a wagon called the Kunstagel wagon. They'll help create the Kentucky rifle. Germans come up with the idea of the Christmas tree, and also the idea of kindergarten is from a German educator. So they will bring a lot of cultural things with them, the Germans will. And the Germans will settle out west. Not all the Americans are going to not all the Native Americans, when I say Native Americans, I mean not all the native white English Americans are going to like these Europeans coming to the country. They're going to say the Irish are Catholic. We don't like Catholics in America because we think they're too loyal to the Pope. They're not Protestants. Like America was a Protestant country, supposedly. They thought the Irish were poor. They don't like the Germans because they don't speak English, and English is God's language, supposedly. So there will be some anti-immigrant feeling in America, and this is something that is unfortunately a big part of American history. We have a political party being formed that was an anti-immigrant party. It's called the Know Nothing Party. The Know Nothing Party was meant to be a secretive party. It was meant to be like secretive. That's why it was called Know Nothing. People could deny knowing anything about it. They wanted to restrict immigration and make it harder to become a naturalized citizen. They wanted to make it easier to have laws to deport alien paupers, poor people. However, even though American is becoming low-key racist, or even more low-key racist during this time, there's not going to be a huge amount of anti-immigration problems. This is a really large country. People could just settle westward. If you're just unhappy with something, just settle westward. Like we're going to kick the Native Americans out anyway. And, there's a strong economy. You could just settle westward. So there's not going to be a huge anti-immigrant backlash until like the 1890s. There's enough money and enough land to go around. Here's some pictures of some of the old immigrants the first time they see Ellis Island, which is where the Europeans come from when they visit New York before they're naturalized. And this is one of the flags of the Know Nothing Party. Native Americans, beware foreign influence. I always find it so ironic because, we're not the Native Americans. That's the American Indians, the Native Americans. They are the Native Americans, and we're so pretentious about this. All right, kiddos, that's all I have for you for today. Until next time, deuces, yeah.